Hello, friends. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. Hope you're having a great day. Got a little late start here. Obviously, I was making my tea, which I have here now. I put on my little Yoda ears hat. Thanks to my cousin. Shout out to her and her husband for the knitting job. Anyways, my name is Ruel Gabiola. I'm so happy to be here. This is Rolling with Ruel. I stream myself reading books sometimes. I'm normally a board game streamer here on Twitch. You can find me playing games with my friends, my family, or by myself every Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. But as I said, I like to read Star Wars books as well. I'm a Star Wars fan. You can see Chewie back there. I've also got an Ewok mug, which is the craziest monstrosity of a mug up here. Got my Yoda ears. Tommy Miller's in the house. Tommy, I want to say thank you, my friend. I received, I don't know, where is it? It is right here. Thanks to Tommy Miller, folks. I hope you don't mind me shouting you out here in public, my friend, but I had to. It was such a nice surprise sending me the microphone stand. It's a boom stand that I've had my eye on, and it appeared magically the other day. I'm going to put it over here, actually. So it appeared the other day in the mail. Tommy, I cannot thank you enough. This is going to do wonders here in my limited space in the studio. I want to thank you again for that. Also, I don't know if you are also responsible for, there was a game sent as well. This game by Felicia. I don't know if that was you, Tommy, but if it was, thank you. It was. Okay, thank you so much. I opened it, Michelle and I, okay, so the other day, we had a bunch, we, like a lot of you, we get Amazon packages on the regular, and we got these packages. We're like, did you order anything? No. Did you? I don't remember. But, I do get a bunch of stuff from the board game industry, so I'm like, I wonder if this is something. But then we opened these up, I was like, okay, no. And I remember you had said something about this, so thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. We're going to be playing this. Oh, we're gonna carve out some time on the schedule to play this and live stream it as well. I think it can work as a live stream game, and Michelle and I going over the rules last night. It looked pretty fun. So this is right in our wheelhouse. Thank you, my friend. I cannot convey my appreciation. So thank you, friends. Today I'm gonna read excerpts from 2 books today. So I've got. This one is really cool. This is The Empire Strikes Back from a Certain Point of View. This is a compilation, or just a big compendium of about almost like around 500 pages of various stories in. I don't know if you've seen the one before, but the original one, Star Wars from a Certain Point of View, was released, I think, a year or 2 ago. And this is the second volume for The Empire Strikes Back. These are stories from various authors. Taking from a certain point of view, some iconic scenes in the movies, or even not so iconic scenes, but taking it from a point of view of minor characters on the screen. I love the first one. This one I'm excited to read because I've just chosen, well, sort of at random, a story by Delilah Dawson. She is an author that's written plenty of Star Wars stuff before. I think the last one that I was familiar with was the Captain Phasma book. But she's going. I thought this was interesting. She's taking the point of view of the infamous Tauntaun from Empire Strikes Back. We're gonna see what the Tauntaun has to say. It's a short story, about 10 pages or so, and that's what this whole book is filled with. I haven't read the book yet. This is gonna be the first time I read any of it, but I chose that one for today. And then, as always, we're going to be continuing Star Wars Thrawn. We are 3 chapters in. We'll be starting chapter 4. So again, this is one of my favorite characters, Thrawn, in the Star Wars universe. He had originally appeared many years ago in Timothy Zahn's original series, Heir to the Empire. But when Lucasfilm and Disney did their deal, all of the old Star Wars books went out of canon. They're no longer canon. But Timothy Zahn came back with a new trilogy for Thrawn, and this sort of like we follow him in his early days of joining the Empire and rising in the ranks. And I've read it before, absolutely loved it, and I'm thrilled to be sharing that with you here today. James is in the house. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us. Saw it, but never played. But thought of you. Thank you, Tommy. Yes, the name alone, we were so thrilled to see. Bye, Felicia. We do hope, or I do hope, that you all had a great weekend. And so today's Tuesday. I took yesterday off. I had some stuff scheduled for yesterday, and I totally forgot it was Martin Luther King Day. So I wanted to take yesterday off as just a way to honor Dr. King and all the work he did, and just remembering his legacy as a civil rights pioneer and leader. And for me personally, I wanted to take yesterday off to, as you do, reflect and just thinking about how I can do better in all aspects of my life, but especially with Dr. King's vision of a more kind and more equal United States of America. We've got, speaking of the U.S. we've got a new president coming in tomorrow, which I am absolutely thrilled about. So I'm not going to get into, I don't really do the politics thing here. But you all know, that, okay. I think you all know where I stand as far as the current political situation, and I am just happy to see it change real soon. I'm sorry, I've got my phone right now, so I'm going to be doing this Star Wars reading, and then I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to do a co-working stream. So I've got work to do, and I've been doing co-working streams. I've done two of them the last few days, and I was really productive during these times where I just chill, put on some really chill music. I shrink down my camera, and I'm like in a little corner, and then I have like board game photos just go on a little slideshow. And I've gotten a really good response to it. Other people have been working along with me. So we work, obviously by ourselves here, but in a way it's together because we're all sort of like, in the same chat, same live stream. So I'm going to be doing that. I do have, I'll probably step out probably around 10ish or so, right after I start the co-working stream, because my car is in the shop right now. It's just, regular service, and that's what's sort of distracting me right now. The tech that's working on my car, just updating, and so should be done in like another hour or so. But so I'm not gonna. This is funny. I did take it to the dealership because I've got the it's still under warranty or whatever, and it's funny to me like how certain things. Oh yeah, this needs to be changed. We'll change it for you at this price. And it was like front wiper blades for like $75. And I'm typing in, no thanks, I'll handle that on my own. I mean, it is, come on. It's not that part, it's like not covered under warranty or whatever the care program is. So I'm letting the tech know, no problem, I'll take care of it myself. No thanks. Sorry, I'll have to watch me text, but no thanks. I'll do that myself. $75, folks, for wiper blades. Insane in the membrane, as they would say. Hey, one new thing I'm super excited about. I finally got my new phone. I don't know. I had this ordered last month, December 14th, so it's been over a month. After about, it was, I ordered before Christmas, and after 2 weeks, I just assumed, with the Christmas holidays and, COVID, packages are going to take longer. So I wasn't sweating it. But then January rolled around, and it was like 3 weeks later. I was like, 3 weeks after my phone, this is not feeling right. So I went to Google's, and I sort of ranted about this on Twitter. I don't like to publicly shame companies like this. I try not to. So I try to do it in like a funny way. Like, yes, I was, frustrated, but I'm going to throw some funny memes on and stuff. So, and let me back up. So I go to Google. It's a Google phone. I've been happy with their phones in the last 6-7 years or whatever. I've owned them. I went to their website, typed in the stuff. Hey, I'm missing, my phone's not showing up. Here's the tracking number. Blah blah blah. I went on chat, got a call, talked to them, and we went back and forth for like 3 or 4 days, and I was just like, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. Like, y'all aren't listening to me. You're not hearing, what I'm saying here. Like, can we just get my phone here? And they're trying to get me to go through OnTrack, which is the shipping provider. I went to OnTrack. OnTrack said you have to talk to Google. So it's like this infinite loop, and I was just getting frustrated. So I went on Twitter, sort of like, made some funny comments while you can sense my frustration. And like within less than an hour, someone at Google got back to me, and I'm like, okay, thanks. I mean, yeah, now all of a sudden my phone shows up a week later. I'm like, I mean, that's great. I just don't feel like it needs to be like you have certain customer service systems set up where it should have been like, it shouldn't come down to me going on Twitter, and trying to like shame you. That it's just is frustrating. But I did get the phone. It's a new phone. Like my other one, I had the Google Pixel XL, 2 XL for years, and it was at the end of its lifeline. There's only a certain amount of time. So I think it was like 3 or 4 years, and then it stops getting the most recent updates for Android. So I upgraded to the 4A with the 5G. I know the 5 just came out recently. Like that's the newer phone, but from all the reviews I've heard and everything I read, like the 5 didn't really improve significantly over the 4. So that's why I went with the 4. And I don't know, maybe it's just the whole I prefer the even numbered pixels. Board Game Spam, I've been liking. Oh, thank you, Board Game Spam. It's folks. Board Game Spam just started streaming the other day, and I think it's such a cool thing to see. And they had some very kind words. Thank you, by the way. It's so cool to see people jumping in on this, streaming thing. I love seeing new Twitch streamers, and we all bring something to the table, literally, right? And again, streaming is not for everyone, and if you try it and don't like it, that's cool too. But I do like to see new people doing the things, and I try to support as I can. But thank you, Board Game Sam. Bookadur is John Gonzalez in the house. That's totally how they ate you, right? Like, oh, here's the car. I'm assuming you're talking about the car. Yeah, you come in for the service, and they're gonna attack, like stuff like the air filters and stuff. Come on, those are like you get that for $10 at your local automotive store, and it takes you 5 minutes to put in. Like, I remember one time Michelle. So we have another car, a Honda Pilot, and that one, we took it in for like an oil change or something. And, again, we trust our mechanics and stuff. And the ones that we like, they said, hey, you should do your, replace your cabin air filter, which is the one inside the car. And I remember our mechanics say, you know what, we charge $100 for that service. Like, he's like, don't, again, some people that's fine. They can afford it, but they're like, you can get the part for. I was like, yeah, just give me the part number or whatever. It was like less than $20 on Amazon. I think I got it even for less at like the local automotive store. I forgot where do we go? Not Pep Boys. Well, one of those automotive stores. And it took 5 minutes to replace. It's ridiculous. So, let's see. Let me just catch up on comments here. Oh, okay, cool. Not too many comments yet. Let's get into Star Wars, shall we? I've got my tea, by the way. I just brewed a hot cup of Earl Grey with honey and lemon. Hope y'all are staying hydrated and or being well fed. Got to keep the old voice in shape here. So let me go over here. Whoop. Yeah. So this is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. Let me just check on this mic. Is this thing? Okay, cool. And then I'll be reading Chapter 4 of Thrawn today. So for this, if you're just joining us, folks, I read Star Wars books every Tuesday because it is Tatooine Tuesday, apparently. Well, I made that up last week. This is Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. This is a compendium of stories from various authors, Star Wars authors or not. I mean, there's a ton of them, and these are all stories told from a certain point of view. There are minor characters, there are major characters, iconic scenes, little throwaway scenes that are all taken by an author or authors, and they redo them. And, you know, for instance, let me just look at the, grab a couple here. So the very first one is called Eyes of the Empire. So this little short story is based on that little droid at the very start of the movie. And there's other ones that are like there's a story on some of the bounty hunters that were after Han Solo. I think it was like IG-88 and Bosk maybe. But so anyways, all these stories are like that, just very small bits, even throwaway bits in the movie, but they redo them to give them like the spotlight in these stories. Tauntaun Tuesdays, yes, and that's totally it, John. Funny you should mention Tauntaun. This is what I am reading today. We are reading She Will Keep Them Warm. This is from a Tauntaun's perspective, and this is by Delilah Dawson. She's done the Captain Phasma novel and also a couple of other novels. Let me, they have their author bios in the back here. I want to see. So she's done, okay. Yeah, I knew she's done a few of these. Star Wars, the Phasma novel. She did Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire. So Galaxy's Edge, I don't know if y'all know, back when Disneyland was open, they had that Star Wars, Star Wars Land. The Galaxy's Edge, she actually did a novel based on that. So you could actually read the novel before you go there, and it has like all kinds of like Easter eggs and stuff like that. And she's done Star Wars: The Perfect Weapon and a bunch of other like comics and other things as well. So very well-known author in the Star Wars universe and outside of that as well. Book of Nerds like the Phasma novel. Yes, I don't remember. Did I read that one? I don't know if I read that one. I know I had a copy, and I think I started it and just never finished. But I mean, yeah, she's done a lot of stuff, folks. And this is, I just sort of semi-randomly picked her story. I mean, I'm just really curious about what happens with the Tauntaun here. Let me check. Oh, by the way, we've got a high wind warning here in Southern California. John is also in Southern California. I hope you're doing well, man. It's crazy out here. Like, we took the car in today, and it was seriously, the winds are insane out here. We saw, I saw one of my neighbors, like, trash cans. They forgot to bring them in the other day. They're down the street now. Let me check messages again real quick here. Okay. I'm going to get into it, folks. This is She Will Keep Them Warm by Delilah S. Dawson. And as you can see, the cover of the book is right there. Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. Thank you for joining me, by the way. A Tauntaun's life has two rulers, warmth and cold. The first is a signal to wake with the sun, to hunt, to mate, to feed crop milk to the squeaking tauntlets, to run through the snow, nostrils huffing steam. The second is a signal to sleep. Nights fall, triggering a darkness so cold on the planet Hoth that even Tauntauns can't survive it unless they huddle together, barely moving, their blood slowed to slurry. For Mura, so is it Mura or Mura? For Mura, matriarch of this herd of Tauntauns, such natural rhythms have lost all meaning. She's been captured, corralled, tamed. She can smell the shift from day to night and back again, but rarely sees the sun and moons. The odd, hot, buzzing things that provide false light in the pens among the caves are weak and cloying, and they never turn off. She now has a third ruler, the strange two-footed creatures that control her. They call themselves rebels. For these captured Tauntauns of Echo Base, part reptile and part mammal, the entire world has shrunken down to a few sections of a single cavern. Tauntauns can't count, but Mura knows she's with fewer animals than she has once had her under her care when they lived free. Back then, they often spent the night in caves like this one, sleeping so deep that nothing could wake them, their blood a heartbeat away from freezing as they piled together, their scents and bloodlines commingling. But when morning came, they crept out into the sparkling brightness, scenting the air for the reek of predatory wampas, and, when finding none, snorting their pleasure and tossing snow with their horns to make sparkling rainbows against the white sky. That's what Mura misses the most: freedom and high spirits, the ability to throw her head, butt horns, nudge a sister or daughter with her hip, sneak away with the bull of her choice, wiggle her tail to give the tauntlets something to chase. When she leaves the caves now, she's bound with straps, head and body no longer capable of fully rejoicing in the fresh snow. The rebels turn her neck to tell her which way to go, nudge her ribs with hard boots, and shout things that have no meaning when she makes too much noise. She knows her name only because someone said it over and over again, while feeding her ice scrabblers from a bucket. And now she knows that if she hears that sound and pads over, they'll have something else for her to eat, even if it's generally less appetizing. This morning, she had a rare treat. She was taken out on patrol with her favorite daughter, Reba, and although they were both bound and saddled by the noisy rebels, they were still together in their element. The world was bright and full of smells and room to move, and they tossed their horns and bugled until the one riding Reba said, "Wow, they're really excited today, huh, Han?" And the one on Mura's own back yanked on her head and muttered, "Only dumb animals could get excited about this much snow." Not that Mura understood any of it. Mura vastly prefers the female rebel with the soft voice, the one who stayed with her when she was throwing her most recent set of tauntlet twins confined to a stall, alone. It was a difficult birth, probably because tauntauns are meant to run out their labor, not to pace in a cramped corner. But the female rebel sat with her, stroking her face, murmuring comforting things. And when the two tauntlets were finally out, that same rebel warned the male caretakers away, saying, "She's exhausted. Give us a little breathing room. Goodness knows we all need it." Before she was captured, Mura would have spit in the rebel's face, but that night, weak from giving birth, she gently lipped clumps of fungus from her salty hands and didn't fight when the rebel stroked the fur down her neck. When Mura pushed her head against the rebel's shoulder, she was rewarded with a good scratch around her itchy horns. "I know how you feel," the rebel said softly right by her ear. "Always busy, always push this way and that. I think this is the first time I've been alone in months." A soft chuckle. "Not that I'm alone, with you and the babies." When the rebel reached down to caress the new sleeping tauntlets, Mura allowed it. Those tauntlets are sturdy and strong now, and the rebel female sometimes visits the pens in the quiet part of night, alone, when only Mura is half awake and keeping watch over her herd. Mura is always pleased to have her horns scratched, and this rebel seems glad to have someone to talk to. So, yes, it was a good morning running with Reba, but their time together in the snow was all too brief. Now Mura is back in the caves and unsettled. She wouldn't usually fret over her strong daughter being outside where she belongs, but the air tells her it's going to be an unusually cold night, and Reba should be back by now. Reba is pregnant, although it's early, and these will be Mura's first granddaughters. She opens her nostrils, scents the air, paces nervously. There's no sign of Reba, but the female rebel is nearby, and even for one of her kind, she smells disturbed, anxious, uneasy, just like Mura feels. She wonders if perhaps the female rebel is worried about someone she cares for. Maybe the male rebel riding Reba? Are rebels capable of such feelings? They certainly don't rub and touch and snort like tauntauns, and the way they wrap their own bodies completely in straps and smelly cloth suggests they're too primitive to read scents. Mura is at the edge of the makeshift fence, watching the rebel and puzzling at the strangeness in the air, when an unwelcome odor makes her snort. She spins, head already down, presenting her horns. Keelak faces her, horns ready, and squeals a challenge. Mura softly sighs. Keelak is the sort of upstart cow she would have driven away from the herd if they were outside, where they belong. Keelak has nerve, but no wisdom, belligerence without care. Her tauntlets are strong, but poorly behaved. She is a leader for a wilder time, but here in the caves the tauntauns must show restraint, or else they simply disappear. The younger cow charges, and Mura is ready. She's weathered such threats before. Their horns crash with an intensity that jars Mura's old bones. They both rear back, eyeing each other. Keelak hit hard, harder than expected. So this is real then. Keelak isn't playing, isn't testing her. Keelak wants to usurp her and take control of the herd, and she's taken Mura's worry for weakness. With a toss of her head to check the big open door one last time for any sign of Reba, Mura snorts her own rage, letting her affront and anger seep out her pores, drowning Keelak's scent. The older cow circles with her challenger, her senses taking in every minute sniff and sound that might help her best the younger, smaller, but more motivated beast. Mura is the matriarch. She was the matriarch before this cave, and she plans to be the matriarch long afterward, to midwife her granddaughters and great-granddaughters into the icy world outside without the strange hot lights of the murmuring rebels and their sense of panic and fear. Keelak has no battle scars, has never made tough decisions to keep her herd safe. She only wants domination. Mura has never trusted her. Normally, that lack of trust would be bad for the herd because tauntauns are bound by smell and touch. Now it's good because Mura has no qualms about destroying her rival. They share neither love nor blood. Keelak throws back her head to bellow, and that's when Mura attacks, ramming her horns into the smaller cow's throat and throwing her onto her back. She saw that trick once when her own mother ruled, a bachelor challenging the lead bull, so perhaps Keelak didn't know to be careful. Horns are to be butted, but horns have other uses. Twisting in the air, Keelak lands on the meat of her hip with a cry of pain and scrabbles awkwardly, trying to stand. The other tauntauns have all stepped back, forming a circle, watching the fight with intense curiosity. Their most sensitive language is one of odor, and Mura smells the crowd. Concern, excitement, indignation, ferocity. Some would like to see her go. Others pulse with their love for her and their need for her leadership. Empowered by the support and enraged by those who would betray her, Mura bugles her superiority and runs for the struggling, vulnerable Keelak. Tauntauns don't do well on their backs, especially not on the slick floors of the warm cave with no thick, soft snow to provide cushion and grip. A spurt of rage emboldens her, and she lunges for the smaller cow's exposed belly, her strong yellow teeth bared. But before her teeth can close on that blubbery skin, a hot splash of Keelak's saliva slashes across her eyes, blinding her. Mura paws at her face, but her claws can't quite reach her eyes. She knows that if she turns to wipe her eyes on her haunch, she'll leave her other side open for Keelak's attack. She can't risk it. With a tauntless mew of desperation, she blindly lumbers into the circle of her herd, begging for help. Pombo steps back uneasily, but then a warm body swings toward her, offering fur that no longer carries the scent of snow, but still smells like home. Her old friend Tova. Mura gratefully rubs her face against the familiar flank until the saliva is gone, gives a purring nuzzle of appreciation, and spins to charge Keelak, snaking her head to avoid another wad of spit. "Hey now, what's this? Mura, you've got more sense than that." Her favorite female rebel is there, ducking under the makeshift fence as if she's completely forgotten she's surrounded by an entire herd of huge, upset beasts, any of whom could easily snap her in half with one hard thwack of a tail. The rebel hurries up to Mura, who's gone still at the sound of her name. There could be food involved. "Keelak, cut that out. Ugh, what a smell. I swear, what is it that gets you into you tauntauns? Lieutenant, put a halter on Keelak and put her in a private pen, would you? She looks like she wants to spit." The female rebel has her useless little paws up, and Mura snuffles at them, hoping for some hidden tidbit. She sighs to find them empty, but then they're rubbing her long neck, scratching around her horns and ears. It's calming, like a mother's barbed tongue, and Mura's earlier rage melts at the touch. Keelak is led away, and the tension breaks, the tauntaun herd milling around as if they've forgotten they nearly watched a fight to the death. "Are you worried, big girl? Your daughter is out there with Luke. He'll keep her safe, and she'll keep him safe, won't she? Reba is just like you, strong, capable, careful." Mura lowers her head for more scratches. She doesn't know what the language means, but there's something pleasant about it, something comforting. Her name and her daughter's names murmured together like the wind song. She purrs deep in her throat and delicately rubs her head against the rebel's fingers. The rebel leans in, head down, her voice soft, a secret just between them. "Oh, Mura, Luke's taking too long and Han is leaving.
Why can't they both be in the same place at the same time, where I can keep an eye on them? The rebel looks around at the other Tauntauns and smiles. I wonder if that's how you feel when Arno and Boz are out. Like your tauntlets are fully grown and you trust them, but you'd feel a lot better if you were personally watching over them. Mura snorts, something caught in her second set of nostrils. The rebel keeps talking. I'm worried about Luke. It's not like him to be careless. It's exactly like Han, but at least Han's still here and safe. I know he's about to leave, but the rebel trails off, uncertain in size. They're kind of impossible, aren't they? Or maybe just Han is. Or maybe I am. She slings her arm around Mura's neck and looks at the open door along with the Tauntaun. Wisps of snow curling in as the sun begins to set. I sent 3PO to ask Han about going out to find Luke. I hope he doesn't botch it up. 6 million forms of communication, and that droid still gets the wording exactly wrong half the time. Hearing the word 3PO, Mura's tip twitches in disgust. The shiny thing smells wretched, and it once tried and failed to communicate with her using a loud, grating squawk she didn't condescend to return. Princess? It's another rebel, some random male, he's carrying a bridle. Her rebel, the female, the leader, looks up. She smells annoyed now, as if she's been interrupted in the midst of something very important. Mura knows the feeling. Yes? Captain Solo is gearing up. The female unhooks her arm from Mura's neck, a sensation the Tauntaun immediately misses. But then she takes the bridle and slips it over Mura's head, bucking it gently. You'll bring him home, won't you, girl? She whispers into her furry ear. You're a tough old broad. Mura twitches her ear back towards the rebel, listening. Princess, wouldn't you rather send one of the younger, stronger animals? The female leads Mura over to the smaller corral where they keep the saddles, and for once Mura eagerly follows. Not because there's food involved, but because the saddle means she's going outside, and that's where her daughter Reba has been far too long. There's no stronger Tauntaun than this old battle axe, her rebel says, patting her neck. She was here before us, and she'll be here long after us. For some reason, I trust her. The female rebel leaves as the male begins the lengthy saddling process, but then she returns with a handful of fungus, which Mura daintily nibbles from her open hand, following it with a wide lick of thanks. I'm counting on you, girl. Bring them back safe. And then the female rebel leaves, a scent of hope mixed with worry trailing in her wake. The male rebel grooms Mura with a curry comb. It would be enjoyable if she weren't so anxious to leave, and saddles her, pulling the strap a little more tightly than she'd prefer, and making her snort in surprise. She knows this dance, she's ready for it, and when the noisy male rebel finally arrives, she can smell him too. He's angry, but more than that, he's scared. And he carries the faintest whiff of her female rebel, a tender but lingering scent of affection. The noisy one doesn't seem to like what the other rebels are telling him, and he climbs up into her saddle with purpose, thrumming with energy that resonates in Mura herself. He wants something very much, and she does too. She can feel it in her blood, in every muscle. She needs to run outside, needs to open her nostrils and hunt for her daughter. She is the matriarch of her herd, and this is her greatest responsibility, keeping those she loves safe, no matter what. Your Tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker, the male on the ground says, but Tauntaun is the only word that means anything to Mura. Then I'll see you in hell, the noisy rebel shouts back. Mura doesn't know what that means either, but it feels an awful lot like the bellow of rage she unleashed on Kelak earlier, and she wants to bugle along with him to share in his determination. But the sound she wants to make belongs outside, just like she does. But she can wait a few moments longer. The noisy rebel nudges her forward, and Mura gladly runs out the open door, nostrils wide open, scenting the icy air for any sign of her daughter. She takes in a deep breath, and her body lights up incandescent. Here, she is an animal again. She is herself. She feels the snow underneath her feet, and her tail swinging fully in the freezing air. It is exhilarating and right and beautiful, and for just a moment before he jerks her reins and sets her course, Mura remembers what it was to be free. She throws back her head and calls for her daughter, and for once the noisy rebel lets her, doesn't yank the reins to quiet her. You can say that again, sister. Now do me a favor and find my friend. Mura runs, nostrils open, searching, hunting, fully herself for the briefest of moments. There, the faintest scent. It's the younger rebel male, the one Reba carried this morning. The trail is old and faint, but it is enough. If she can find him, perhaps she will find her daughter, and when the temperature falls, they can huddle together and share their warmth. It's the only way to survive a night this cold and hot, and she is determined to live to morning. She runs like the wind as the sun begins to set. She will find her daughter and protect her, protect the next generation of tauntlets in her daughter's belly. She is driven by blood and love. She will protect those that she loves. She will keep them warm. Wow. Friends, that was... wow. That was From a Certain Point of View, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. That story was by Delilah S. Dawson. It was called She Will Keep Them Warm. That was a really interesting take on the Tauntaun that helped that helped Han find Luke. And as we all know, spoiler alert for a movie that's been around for 40 years, Han split open the belly of that Tauntaun, put his friend Mr. Skywalker or Luke into that Tauntaun's belly and kept them warm throughout the night until reinforcements the rebels could find them. Wow, that's such the 10-page story, folks. It's really good. Time Roller's in the house. Hi, Time Roller. Have a great lurk, John. John is lurking while doing chores. Very nice. I didn't expect that. Wow, that was good. Oh, wow. Really good, folks. Anyways, my name is Ruel Gaviola. This is Rolling with Ruel. I normally play games here on Twitch Mondays through Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific. Occasionally I do other types of streams, such as this one where I read books on Tatooine Tuesdays. So where I take excerpts from certain books, thanks to my friends at Del Rey Publishing for sending over some of these books. That was From a Certain Point of View, which is now available, hopefully if you still have a local bookstore, but also at many online retailers, as well as the official Lucasfilm Books website. You can order there through Del Rey Publishing. Wow, I was sort of blown away by that. I'm checking my phone, friends. I'm sorry to be rude, but I have my car in the shop right now. I just wanted to make sure I can go get it soon. Okay, cool. So my car will be ready soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read another part. We are reading Star Wars Thrawn. We're 3 chapters down. We're doing a chapter a week, folks. So if you missed the first 3 chapters, it's basically what we're doing. We're being introduced to one of my favorite characters, Thrawn, in the Star Wars universe, originally by Timothy Zahn. And there was a series many years ago, back in the, I believe, late 90s, the Heir of the Empire series. And it's what I would have loved in a trilogy, movie trilogy, after the original trilogy. But they did it in book form because, there was no plans of making another movie trilogy at that time. But the book series is excellent. Some of it, it's all non-canon now. It's all in the Legends series. But it was fantastic. And that series originally introduced Thrawn. Then when Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, they commissioned more new books. This time they are canon, so Thrawn is a character in the Star Wars universe. He is from a race called Chiss, and he is known for his military prowess. And he just recently met the Emperor Palpatine. The Emperor, I don't know if he was impressed with him, but the Thrawn showed no fear. Whereas everyone else around the Emperor, as you probably should be, was cowering before the Emperor. But yeah, Thrawn is. We'll see what he has in store for us. He was basically captured by the Empire, but there's a translator that's hanging out with him named Eli Vanto, and the Empire and the Emperor recognized that Thrawn could do good things, great things for the Empire. So he was in this basically a officer and training program, and we're gonna pick up there. This is chapter 4, Thrawn. I'm gonna read this, then I'm gonna take a quick break. short break actually, and get my car, go down. Michelle, hopefully, when she's got a break, we're gonna go down, pick up my car, and then I'll be back here for a co-working space. The co-working space is I will be here online. We're gonna have some chill music, and I'm gonna do some work. I'll have some photos of board games and a slideshow, and y'all can work along with me. It was really cool last time, and I'm gonna continue doing it on a regular basis. So let me hydrate here real quick, or let me get my tea. And I will hydrate. I have some water over here as well. So don't forget to take care of yourselves, folks. So let's go here. Let's get ready to read Thrawn from Timothy Zahn. And let me put the different cover. I forgot to do this last time, I think. Where is Thrawn? There it is. There's the book. And images are courtesy of the StarWars.com website. This is they give you backgrounds for like Zoom or video calls, and they just have a bunch of these that you can download yourself. And I just downloaded them, and made a little slideshow out of them, to give you something to look at besides my face. Anyways, this is Chapter 4 of Timothy Zahn's Star Wars Thrawn. Thank you again for joining me. My name is Ruel Gaviola. Chapter 4. To some extent, the direction of one's chosen path automatically selects for the paths that may cross it. A warrior's path will intersect the paths of other warriors, allies, and enemies alike. A warrior's path will intersect the paths of other workers. But as with games of cards or dice, sometimes unexpected crossings occur. Some are driven by chance, others by design, others by a change in one's goals. Some are driven by malice. Such manipulations can prove effective in the short term, but the longer-term consequences can be perilously difficult to predict. The path of Arindad Price is one such example. A deep and perceptive study of it can serve as a valuable lesson, and as an even more valuable warning. Miss Price? Arinda Price paused and turned around. Hurrying toward her down the long corridor was Eric Uvis, a datapad in his hand and an intense expression on his face. Arinda glowered to herself. Uvis, with one of his rock-brain questions or comments, wasn't something she really wanted to deal with right now. But he wasn't going away, and the Price Mining's corporate building was far too small for her to successfully avoid him all day. Might as well get it over with. He caught up to her and stopped. Miss Price, he repeated, breathing a little heavy. The man was in his mid-30s, about Arinda's own age, but in far worse shape. Glad I caught you. What can I do for you, Mr. Uvis? Arinda asked, keeping her face and voice neutral. I heard a rumor that your father's just uncovered a heretofore unknown vein of dunium, Uvis said. Is that true? It is, Arinda said, wondering darkly who had let the news slip. Dunium was one of the hardest metals known, making it a key component in the manufacture of warship hulls, and under the Imperial Navy's recently accelerated shipbuilding program, the price of the metal had skyrocketed. Even a hint that a fresh line had been found would be enough to initiate a feeding frenzy among refiners and ore buyers alike. May I ask how you heard of it? That's not important, Uvis said. What's important is that we guard the find so we can take full advantage of it. I'm sure my mother's already on it, Arinda assured him. We have several contacts among brokers capable of handling something like this. Uvis snorted. I'm sure you do, he said in a vaguely condescending tone. Small, local people, no doubt, who work on a promise and a handshake. Not all of them are small, Arinda said, trying hard not to let her irritation show. Uvis was an outsider from the Corps who had been more or less forced on them by Governor Azadi's office 6 standard months ago. She could probably count his trips outside the capital city area during that time on one hand. Not only did he know virtually nothing about Lothal, but he clearly didn't care to learn. But so what if they are? If any one of them can't handle the full contract, we'll just make deals with 2 or 3 or 4. Everything's interconnected here. And I have no doubt that system works fine for the average backwoods outer rim world, Uvis said with strained patience. But some of us have higher ambitions for Lothal. Arinda snorted under her breath. Ambitions for a backwater dirtball like Lothal. Right. Good luck with that one. I'm serious, Uvis insisted. Now that we have a Dunium vein, we have a Dunium vein, Orinda cut him off. Price mining, not you and not Lothal. We have it. Fine, Uvis said. Just remember the governor's office and I are included in that we. We're your partners, remember? Not for long, Orinda said. As soon as the profits from the Dunium start rolling in, we're buying out of your loan. We can do that. The contract says so. The contract didn't anticipate something like this, Uvis took a deep breath. Look, Orinda, here's the reality. Yes, you've got wealth now, more than you ever dreamed of. That means it's your big chance. Not just Price Mining's, but yours personally as well. Really, Orinda said, trying to make the words sarcastic, but she couldn't quite pull it off. Because he was right. This kind of sudden wealth might finally make it possible for her to get out of here. Not just out of the family business, but off Lothal completely. But it's also going to attract attention, and not necessarily the good kind, Uvis continued. He broke off as a hammer-headed Ithorian appeared around the corner and hurried past them, a stack of data cards in her hand. Someone's niece, Orinda vaguely remembered, working a 2-week internship. The Ithorian grunted a good morning, then disappeared around a different corner. You need support, Uvis said. More than that, you need protection. Governor Azadi can give you that. The nebulous thought of finally getting off Lothal vanished in a sudden cloud of suspicion. Protection, she countered? Or do you mean takeover? No, of course not, Uvis protested. Really, Orinda said, because we've heard this before. Other people have come to Lothal, lots of them, looking for ways to lift us out of the dust and coincidentally make themselves richer. Sooner or later, they all find out that the people here are stubborn, set in their ways, and not interested in having fancy hats from the Corps tell them what to do. I'm glad Lothal has come to terms with mediocrity, Uvis ground out. But that pattern is over. The fancy hats will be coming back, but this time to stay. And they'll eat small fish like Price Mining for breakfast. Don't threaten me, Uvis, she warned. I'm not threatening you, he said. I'm trying to tell you that everything is about to change. There are a dozen ways a big mining corporation can move in on a small operation like yours and either take it over or bleed it dry. I don't want that. You don't want that. And Governor Azadi most definitely doesn't want that. With an effort, Arandi got a fresh grip on her temper. So Uvis had already talked to Azadi about the Dunium? Damn. In a tight-knit community like Capital City, that meant half the citizens knew by now. And if half the citizens knew, a good quarter of the outsiders in the area probably knew too. I assume you have a solution to offer? We do, Uvis assured her. We start with selling you, the governor, another 21% of Price Mining. That would what? Orinda demanded, feeling her jaw drop. Absolutely not. You're not getting a controlling interest. It's the only way to keep some predatory mega corporation off your back, Uvis said. With the power and office of the governor protecting you, we can make deals with real refineries, the kind with money and influence. No, Orinda said flatly. Uvis took a deep breath. I know this is a big step, he said, his tone soothing now. But it's the only way. I said no, she repeated. You need to at least tell your parents about the governor's offer, Uvis persisted. At least your mother. As a general manager, she needs to know which part of no is confusing you. Uvis's face darkened. If you don't, I will. No, what you'll do is get out of my sight, Orinda told him. Actually, what you can do is get off our property. He snorted. Please. I own 30% of Price Mining. You can't just throw me out. The Price family owns 70%, Orinda countered, and the guard droids answer to us. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Uvis inclined his head. Very well, Miss Price, he said, but hear this. You can sit on your dirty little world, a big frog in a small dust puddle, and think you can stand alone against the galaxy. But you can't. The sooner you realize that, the less it'll cost you. He raised his eyebrows. And your parents. Goodbye, Mr. Uvis. Goodbye, Miss Price, he said. Call me when you're ready to see reason. Uvis himself was gone, but the cloud he left over Orinda persisted. A dozen times that day she thought about going to her mother and letting her know about Uvis's warning and offer, but each time she decided not to. The mine had been in her family almost all the way back to the first planetary settlements, and she knew that both her parents would go down fighting rather than give it up. They had full legal rights to the mine, the land, and the business. Moreover, the local legal system, where any challenges would be heard, was loaded with acquaintances, suppliers, clients, friends, and friends of friends. The one advantage of living on a sleepy frontier world. Whatever corporations or slicksters or sleazy grubbers from the governor's office tried to throw at them, they would weather the storm. She worked late, finishing up the day's data sorting and drafting a data release for whenever her parents decided to announce the news. Just because half of Lothal probably knew by now didn't mean they wouldn't eventually have to say something officially. It was nearly sundown when she finally left the office. She headed for home, driving slower than usual, watching the colors in the western sky and the fading light as it bounced sparkles off the shrubs and intricate rock formations lining the roadway. On the horizon, the lights of capital cities' buildings were coming on, a softer and wider glow than the reds and pinks of the setting sun. From somewhere in the distance came the happy shrieking of children at play. Off on the horizon, she could see a pair of air speeders, probably with teenagers at the controls, showboating over the rolling, grass-covered hills as they chased the setting sun. It was the kind of primitive beauty that travel advisors raved about. Orinda hated it. That hadn't always been the case. For a while back when she was a child, she loved the quiet life, the wide open spaces, and the companionship of children of so many different species and backgrounds. But during her teen years, she'd begun to see the quietness as dullness, the open spaces as lack of culture or excitement, the familiar acquaintances as stifling and boring. Often, lying in bed, she'd gaze out the window at the stars and wish with all her heart that she could escape to a real world somewhere, a place with excitement and bright lights and sophisticated people. But she never had, and with the passing of her teen years and her transition to the responsibilities of adulthood, she knew she never would. The pain and frustration had subsided somewhat over the last decade, but they had never entirely disappeared. She still hated her life here, but it was a familiar, constant hatred, like a dull ache that had never quite healed. She slowed the land speeder a little more, watching the interplay of city light and sunset glow. In worlds with excitement and bright lights, she suspected many of the inhabitants never even saw the horizon, let alone a sunset. Of course, they probably didn't care about such things. If she were there, she doubted she would care either. Could Uvis have been right about the Dunium deposits being her chance to finally escape? She snorted. Of course not. That whole pitch had been a mind game designed to distract her from his attempt to talk his way into controlling the company. Let him try. She didn't especially like her life here, but it was her life, and price mining was her company, and she would see Uvis in hell before she would let anyone steal it. The last wisp of color had faded away, and she was pulling her land speeder into her garage when her comm chimed. She glanced at the ID. It was her father, and keyed it on. "Hello, Father," she greeted him. "What's up?" "Orinda, you need to get to the police station right now," Talmor Price said, his voice nearly unrecognizable. "Your mother's been arrested." Orinda stared. "What? What in the world for? And who ordered it?" "The complaint came from the governor's office," Talmor said, his breath coming in short spurts. "The charge is embezzlement." Talmor Price had worked in the family mine all his life, and Orinda had seen him act calmly and decisively in dozens of crisis situations. But this crisis wasn't mine-based, and for once he clearly had no idea what to do. The police didn't seem to know what to do either. Talmor and Orinda were on a first-name basis with several of them, but this time those personal contacts weren't enough to smooth things out, or even cut through the bureaucratic clutter. All the police could say was that Elanye was in custody, her bail request had been denied, and that she'd been ordered not to allow her visitors. The person behind the order hadn't been named, but everything had come directly from the governor's office. Not that Orinda didn't already know who was behind it. "Eric Uvis works with Ozadi's office," Talmor pointed out as he and Orinda left the station. "Maybe he can help." "Maybe," Orinda said, a twinge of guilt briefly warming the ice that had formed in her soul. In retrospect, she should have told her parents about her last conversation with Uvis. At least they wouldn't have been utterly blindsided by this cowardly attack. I'll go see him later after I drop you off. Thanks, but I'm okay, Talmor said. We can go see him together. I really think you should go home, Arinda persisted. A plan was slowly forming in the back of her mind, the kind that worked best without witnesses present. Barkin was going to keep trying for bail. If he gets it, you don't want to be all the way across Capital City when Mother's ready for you to come get her. I suppose, Talmor conceded. You'll let me know what Uvis says, won't you? Absolutely, Arinda promised, but I'm not expecting anything right away. Try to get some sleep, okay? I'll try. He eyed her, eyes narrowing slightly. Be careful, Arinda. Don't worry, Arinda assured him grimly. I will. It was pure good luck that Senator Domus Renking happened to be on Lothal instead of on the distant world of Coruscant where he spent most of his time. According to the press releases, he'd come back to his homeworld for a short vacation and some meetings with Governor Azadi and other political industrial leaders, and was slated to leave in 2 days. Arinda arrived precisely at 9 in the morning, when Renkin's office opened, and gave her name and reason for her visit to the smiling woman at the reception desk. 2 hours later, she was finally ushered inside. Miss Price, Renkin greeted her, standing courteously as she came in. Please, sit down. Thank you, Senator, Arinda said, passing between this pair of silent guards flanking the doorway and continuing to the chair in front of Renkin's desk. Thank you for seeing me. It was probably inevitable, Renkin said with a smile, waiting until she had seated herself before resuming his own seat. I understand your mother, Alanye, has been arrested for embezzlement. Yes, she has, Arinda said, and she's innocent. Renkin leaned back in his chair. Tell me more. Yes, Senator. Arinda keyed her datapad and tapped for the first file. First of all, my mother's finances, she said, setting the datapad on the desk and turning it around to face him. You'll see that there isn't a boost in any of her accounts. If she embezzled, the money had to go somewhere. She could have set up a secret account, Renkin pointed out, probably even off-world. Agreed, Arinda said, but if she embezzled, the funds by definition had to come from Price Mining. I ran everything from the company's side, digging through all the vectors she had access to. There are no indications of missing money, credit, or resources. No virtual transactions either, that you could find. I know more about Price Mining's computer operations than my mother does, Arinda said. There's no way she could pull off something like I couldn't track. Renkin said. I presume you realize how that makes you look. Yes, and I didn't embezzle either, Arinda said, reaching back across the desk and keying for the next file. This is the company's profit data for the past 2 years. You can see there are regular dips and surges over that time period. Galactic market fluctuations, Renkin said, nodding. Happens in every industry. Your point? You can see a pattern, Arinda said. Dips here, here, and here. If there was embezzlement, it would probably have been time to hit just the right spot to, maybe, not get noticed. You say if there was embezzlement, Renkin said. I was under the impression that Governor Azadi's office had confirmed that there were funds missing. So I've heard, Arinda said, bracing herself as she again tapped the datapad. Now came the tricky part. But it may not be as simple as missing funds. Here's a security video from a party at the company 2 weeks ago, right in the middle of the latest financial dip. She pointed to a broad-faced being with fuzzy jowls and wide-set eyes dressed in a dark brown tunic. You see the Lutrillian here at the side? Yes. That's Pomi Harkmak. She handles the heavy equipment inventory operations. Her account is separate from the main operating fund account. Now, there. See how she slips out of the room right at the height of the party? Yes, Renkin said. Where does that hallway lead? To the central office cluster. Her desk is in there, from which she can access the entire inventory system. Oh, and a fresh order of digging heads had just come in, with the funds slated to go out the next morning. A perfect time for her to act. Also, a perfect time for a drinking partygoer to go to the restroom, Renkin pointed out. What makes you think that's not what's going on, what she's doing? Because she leaves 3 more times in the next 2 hours and is gone at least 10 minutes each time, Arinda said. What does that have to do with anything? Because that's how financial transactions work here, Arinda said. I don't know how it is on Coruscant, but on Lothal, secure fund shifting usually requires 2 or 3 touch points, and the authorization codes sometimes bounce back and forth over an hour or more. Renkin grunted. pretty inefficient. Extremely inefficient, Arinda agreed sourly. It was yet another part of Lovel's quaint approach to life that she found infuriating. But we're stuck with it. The banks and supply houses all have their own ways of doing things, and none of them like turning everything over to computers or droids. Everyone wants to have a personal touch in big transactions. Yes, that does sound like Lothal, Ranking conceded. He poised a finger over the datapad. May I? Certainly. He tapped the datapad to fast-forwarding the recording. As far as Arinda could tell, he had no suspicions that what she'd told him was anything but the truth. And it was, really. Except that Arinda remembered her mother mentioning earlier that day how Pomi Harkmak had been having digestive problems, which meant all those disappearances almost certainly were to the restroom. Maybe Harkmak was innocent. Maybe there were no missing funds, and Uvis was simply making a bald-faced play for control. Or maybe the stomach thing had been as a deception and excuse, and Harkmak was genuinely guilty. Arinda didn't know. She also didn't care. All she cared about was drawing enough suspicion off her mother to persuade Ranking to intervene. Once he did, Harkmak's guilt or innocence was her own problem. May I make a copy of all this? Ranking asked. Actually, I already made you one, Arinda said, pulling a data card from her pocket and placing it on the desk. He smiled wryly as he picked it up. Rather sure of ourselves, are we? Just the opposite, Arinda said. If I couldn't get you to see me in person, I thought you might at least look at the evidence I'd compiled. I'm glad I decided to take the time, Ranking said. Give me a moment. He finished watching the security recording, then silently pushed the datapad back across the desk to Arinda and turned to his computer. For the next few minutes, he worked the keys, gazing at the display. Arinda remained where she was, trying without success to read his expression. Finally, he hit one last key and turned back to face her. Here's the situation, he said, his voice grave. First, as matters stand, I can't lift the embezzlement charge. Arinda stared at him. That wasn't the answer she'd been expecting. What about Harkmak? I just showed you there's another suspect who's at least as viable as my mother. Oh, she's viable, all right, Ranking agreed, and I have no doubt she'll be detained as soon as I pass this on to the police. But without proof of your mother's innocence, Governor Azadi isn't going to release her. Can we at least get her out on bail? You really don't understand what this is all about? Ranking asked, giving her an odd look. This is Azadi's attempt to take over Price Mining. Azadi's or Uvi's? Does it matter? Probably not, Arinda conceded. That's why I came to you instead of pleading my case to him. I hope that if I gave you enough ammunition, you could stop him. Now you're telling me you can't? Ranking raised his eyebrows. What makes you think I want to stop him? He asked. What makes you think I'm not part of his plan? Arinda pursed her lips. What did make her think of that? Because if you're part of the plot, you wouldn't have told me about it. You'd have kept quiet or encouraged me to make a deal to sell out. Very good, Ranking said, favoring her with a small smile. You're right, there is a certain rivalry between the government and me, and there is a way I can help your mother, but I don't think you'll like it. I'm listening. I can get the charges dropped, Ranking said. Sounds good so far, Arinda said. What about the company? That's the part you won't like, Ranking said. You'll have to sign the mine over to the Empire. Arinda had suspected something like that was coming. Even so, the words were like a punch in the gut. The Empire. Ranking held out his hands, palms upward. You're going to lose the mine, Arinda, either to Azadi or to the Empire, because of the Dunium, basically, Ranking said. Bear in mind that Coruscant can take it by fiat with no compensation at all. Right now, they'd prefer to play nice in this part of the Outer Rim, but that restraint won't last forever. This way, at least, you'll get your mother out and new jobs for your family. Arinda shook her head. I don't think they want to work the mine for someone else. Oh, I wasn't talking about keeping them here, Ranking assured her. Not at Price Mining or anywhere else on Lothal. Governor Azadi is a vindictive man, and as long as they're in his jurisdiction, he might be tempted to mess with them out of pure spite. Fortunately, there's a mine I know on Baton that needs an assistant manager and experienced foreman. I already have an offer. Arinda smiled tightly. The 2 hours you kept me waiting outside. Ranking shrugged. That and other things. Unfortunately, there's no data work position for you at the moment, but the owner says he can put you on inventory until something better opens up. I see, Arinda said, watching him closely. Lothal was awash with petty politics, and over the years she'd learned how to navigate them. If the same rules applied to the Imperial version, I suppose I could just stay here on Lothal until then. I wouldn't advise that, Ranking said quickly. Not with Azadi unhappy with you. Unhappy with me? Ranking's lip twitched in a slight smile. Unhappy with me, then, he conceded. He probably wouldn't hesitate to try squeezing me either, Arinda said slowly, as if she were just now working it out. That wouldn't be good for either of us. Hardly, Ranking said, a mixture of amusement and resignation on his face. Let's skip to the last page. What exactly do you want? I want to go to Coruscant, Arinda said. You must have 100 good assistant positions you can offer. I want one of them. In exchange for what? Ranking asked. Favors have to work both ways. In exchange for not making trouble when the Empire takes over price mining, Arinda said. Maybe you've forgotten what people are like here, but they won't be happy about bald-faced takeover. Oh, I remember just fine, Ranking assured her. Why do you think I'm taking this approach instead of just letting the Empire move in directly and cut Azadi off at the knees? Lothal's like every other frontier planet in the Outer Rim, unruly and a potential pain in the rear. But a new Dunium vein is worth the trouble? It's worth a lot of trouble, Ranking took a deep breath, eyeing Arinda closely. All right. As it happens, I do have a job on Coruscant I can offer you. There's an opening in one of my citizen assistance offices. What are those? My job is to represent Lothal's interests on Coruscant. That includes citizens visiting or temporarily working there. It turns out that there's a decent-sized contingent of such displaced citizens working in the Coruscant mines. Arinda's surprise must have shown because he smiled. Not real mines, of course, not like yours, he said. There are more like reclamation operations, where centuries' worth of dumped slag, metal shards, and other debris is dug up from around the foundations of old industrial plants. The Lothal contingent is always in flux, so I have an assistance office in the area to help them with housing and general orientation, as well as guiding them through the Coruscant bureaucratic maze. How many people are we talking about? About 500 at the moment, Ranking said, but there are miners and support personnel from a dozen other Outer Rim worlds working the reclamation projects as well, and that number probably comes to 10,000 or more. I have people who understand bureaucracy, but no one understands mines and the specific needs and languages of miners. I think you'd be a great asset to me. I'm sure I would, Arinda said. What would my housing and salary be, and when would you want me to leave Lothal? Housing would be modest, but salary would be far higher than here, Ranking said, studying her face. Enough to maintain your current lifestyle, even at Coruscant prices. As to leaving, I could take you there as soon as the agreement with the Empire for price mining is finalized. Unless you'd like to help settle your parents on Baton first, of course. That would probably be best, Arinda said, assuming I can persuade them to go along with this plan in the first place. I hope for their sake that you can, Ranking warned, his voice growing darker. It's either this, or your mother's next mining job could be on Kessel. Then I'd better go talk to them. Arinda stood up and slipped her datapad back into its pouch. I assume you can get the visitor ban on my mother lifted? I'll give the order as soon as you're out the door. Thank you, Arinda said. I'll be in touch. 5 minutes later, she was driving down the roadway, her mind spinning with conflicting thoughts and emotions. So this was it. After years of waiting, after years of knowing it would never happen, she was finally getting off Lothal. Not just off Lothal, but to Coruscant. And all it would cost was her parents' jobs and dignity and several generations of the Price family legacy. It wasn't as if Ranking was being completely altruistic either. Part of his goal in accepting Arinda's thinly veiled demand was clearly to split up the family, which would help stifle any legal challenge or local stirring they might decide to mount. But machinations and plots aside, one point stood out clearly: Coruscant. As a child, she'd wanted to see the lights and colors and big buildings of that distant world. In the turmoil of her teenage hopelessness and desperation, the glittering capital had seemed the epitome of the life she so desperately wanted. Now, when all hope was past, she was finally going to get there. Ranking had his own reasons and agenda, but then so did Arinda. Because along with the lights and colors and big buildings, Coruscant was first and foremost the center of imperial political power. The power that Azadi had used to put her mother in prison. the power Ranking was using to take their mind for the Empire. The power that Orinda would someday use to take it back. So her parents would accept Ranking's terms. Orinda would see to that. And then she would go to Coruscant and work in Ranking's little assistant's office and be a good girl and a model employee. Right up until the moment when she found a way to take him down.
Okay, friends, there it is. Chapter 4 of Star Wars Thrawn. Another character here, Aminda Price, and seeing how she's going to be dealing with her future in this world. And you're going to see, perhaps, her path cross with Thrawn at some point. We shall see. I see Time Roller, Chits and Giggles. Thank you. Amanda Panda, as always, is here. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you all for the lurks. I'm going to shut this thing down for now, because I will be back. I said I was going to be back at 11, but it depends how long the car takes. So I'm going to go down, get the car, and come back and maybe eat a snack. But I will be back around. I'm hoping right at 11, but around then for some co-working hangout. So I'm going to shut this down. We're going to raid someone. Thank you again for hanging out and listening and or watching me read some Star Wars books. Socraft Soso's here. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Thank you, James. We are going to be back in about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour for a co-working stream that'll last a few hours today. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Tommy Angel, as well. Thank you, Amanda. Everyone, have a great day. Let's find someone to raid. All right? Bye.